her just talking about like how like the movie is witchcraft and witchcraft is manipulation,
yes,
and like
what she said,
and they're doing like when the movie is doing spells over the audience.
But it had no spells.
It had no spells in it. There were no actual spells. Well, I take that back. No. I take that back. There is a moment in the film where there are 2 spells uttered. Okay. It's the spell that makes the monkeys become flying monkeys, gives them their wings, and then the spell that enchants her broomstick and makes it fly. So there's two spells. Other than that, though, there are no spells actually uttered in the film. Magic just is happening.
Right.
Hey witches, blessed full moon, and welcome to another episode of Spelling the HEKA-TEA with Marcus and Evan. I'm Marcus.
And I'm Evan.
And if you don't know, if this is your first time joining us, a little bit about me. I am a Pacific Northwest gothic queer horror author, activist, obviously a witch, and obviously a very defiant homosexual.
And I'm Evan. I said that already, but that's okay. It's fine. Put my name in your mouth because it's a weird name, and sometimes people need that little extra oomph on it.
With your name, they actually do.
Yes, they do.
So, continue.
Yes, anyways. I am a fiction editor, a legal document specialist, also a witch, obviously, and a lipstick lesbian. So, you know, if any of you witches out there are single lesbians, hit a bitch up.
Hit a bitch up. As for me, I am taken. But that's all right. That's not why you're here.
No, it's not.
If you are joining us again, welcome back to our little corner of the circle. Obviously, the best way to help out and, you know, show support and love is to subscribe, like, comment, share, and just keep tuning in.
Yes, that really helps us out, especially as we are just starting out on our journey on our channel.
Yeah.
Everything, it would really do us a solid if you were to hit that subscribe button.
Yes. So, with that being said, what do we do here? We are a talk show for witches by witches. We're a topical talk show. On occasion, we go out in the field and have little fun segments out and cooking segments called Delicious Witch, which happen for Sabbats and New Moon special episodes. But otherwise, we're just a topical show about life, culture, popular culture, media, politics, etc. But through the lens of witchcraft and with the witchcraft point of view and focused on witchcraft and witchcraft topics. Yes. So, again, welcome. How do we usually start off the show? We usually start off the show with the news.
Yes.
Normally, I like to have a few headlines, but really the only witchy news out there that is making news is Wicked.
Yes. It's eclipsing any and all other news, I think.
It really is. It really is. Hell, it's even eclipsing the fact that Donald Trump's about to get sentenced for like the 6th time as a convicted felon 10 days before his inauguration.
Right.
So, yeah, that's pretty big. And why is it making news? Why? Could it be because of the controversy of the whole poster change? No. Is it possibly over the kind of bland colorization that people are talking about?
Nope.
No. Is it the lack of amazing songs? Aside from maybe one or two? No,
nope.
It is not.
Sure
the reason Wicked is actually making headlines is is because of the homosexual undertones, which, newsflash, are real and are there, and that the movie is actively trying to seduce you into gayness and witchcraft.
Yes. Been already done without Wicked. So.
Right. Oh, well, yes, girl. obviously this is nothing new with witchy media, period. This is always the accusation, always the thing. But that is actually making national news, and it's making big headlines. It's the satanic witchcraft, homosexual messaging influence of Wicked. But we actually have a segment about that, which was planned before the news situation, but then the news situation just turned out to be Wicked.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, okay, we're already going to talk about Wicked.
Right.
So there you go. That's what the news is going to be.
Exactly.
So stay tuned for our segment on Wicked. Right now, let's get to Astrology Mixology.
Exactly.
Astrology Mixology. All right. So it's January. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I know we said that in the last episode, but officially, really, Happy New Year. So, yay.
Same to you, same to all of you.
Yeah.
No matter where you are, what you're doing on this new year, we hope that you are enjoying yourself and shaking off the dust of the old year.
Yeah. And so this Astrology Mixology is a little fun because it's actually almost littered with like new transitions and letting goes. And January is named for the Roman god Janus, who was the god of beginnings and endings. And he had two faces, one looking forward, one looking backward. Always reminding us that while, yes, we need to always be optimistic and look to the future, we must never forget the past. We must never forget our own past and where we come from, because it humbles us. It reminds us of what we've done to achieve and accomplish and get where we are. But it also allows us to make smarter choices by not repeating the same mistakes. And then on a global level, on a more human level, it reminds us to never forget the past lest we are doomed to repeat it, which our governments could do a little better about following.
Yes, that is definitely a theme that I think is very relevant to our times currently.
Yeah. So 2025 is the year of the moon. It comes to its major standstill. This marks the end of the 18.5-year orbit the moon does around the Earth. This is the year it will be at its greatest and at closest point. So essentially, like in the winter, springtime, whatever, the moon is going to be, at this point moving forward until like summer, is going to basically, for us in the northern hemisphere, it's going to be basically directly above us at all times. And then for you in the southern hemisphere, you're just like, it's going to always be maybe at your horizon, or you just will never see it. And then it will, and then in the summertime, when it's like June and harvesty, and the moon is gonna like be huge for us, and like barely above the horizon. So it's gonna be like a super moon upon super, like huntery harvest summertime moon, like just that kind of moon that you want every summer. So that's what that means. So this is a great year. 2025 is a great year for lunar magic throughout the entire year. So then, 2nd of January, Venus moves into Pisces. So Venus can now function at its highest power. It increases how we bond with others. And you should seek out pleasures and indulge in beauty.
And what month was that?
January 2nd.
January 2nd.
So
okay, so it already happened.
It already happened, but you're in the middle of it now, and that's the point. Remember, Astrology Mixology. The mixology is we do it in the middle of the month because then we can see how things are adding up. We can say, oh, fuck. So that's why, since the beginning of January, I've been in this headspace, or I've been dealing with this. And to me, the reason I do that is I feel like that reinforces the validity of astrology when we're presenting it in the middle of the month. And then you have the opportunity to connect the dots from what's already happened. And then you're like, shit, yeah, that is where I've been.
Right.
You know? So yeah, January 2nd, Venus will have moved into Pisces. So this is all about bonding with others and just indulging yourself until February 4th.
Which I actually think is interesting. That's kind of why I asked you to repeat that. This new year of 2025, I really have been feeling like particularly like energized, empowered by just like the energy in the world around me. And I actually am a Pisces Venus, so it's interesting to find out that really correlates. This is actually a real
crucial time for you right now, magically, for manifestation, for your goals. So if you have Pisces and Venus in your house, or Venus is in Pisces in your house, anything, or your Pisces, whatever, this is a really good time for you. This is a really powerful time for you. So then on January 6th, Mars retrograde moves from Leo into Cancer. So this is good to meditate on how you've been managing your emotions, particularly in regards to emotions of passion and anger. So this is really about reflection on January 6th. You know, Mars is moving into its ascending this month, so it's going to be it's making its way out of its retrograde, and later in the month it's going to ascend, move into its ascent, and yeah, so it's wanting us to kind of analyze our emotional responses to our deepest, most primal, basic, quick to light emotions, which really are our passions, whether it's romantic or issues, topics, your job, whatever your passions are, and how you handle and deal with your anger, and how you've been dealing with it, and what needs to change.
You know, I think a lot of people sort of overlook the fact that cancers can have such a range of strong emotions.
Oh, yes.
I think that a lot of people associate cancers with, you know, being sensitive, weepy, but what they don't really understand is that cancers feel every emotion more strongly than the other signs. And anger is one of those. Jealousy, like the whole spectrum of human emotions, they are going to experience on like a higher frequency than a lot of the other signs are going to, just because they are so prone to bigger emotions.
I don't know, I don't know if I would necessarily completely agree with that. I would say that they would be, it's more about, it's not that they feel them more than others, it's that they don't,
maybe like
they don't control, they can't control them.
Yes.
They have no, they express them large because they, and it's because they have no control over them.
Right.
Which every Cancer I've ever known will be the first to admit that.
Oh, yeah.
Will be the first to admit. Like, same thing with Libras.
Yes.
Libras will be like, I'm super fucking emotional and super sensitive.
Exactly.
Like, I'm with a Libra.
Yeah.
Trust. Like, my aunt, who I'm super close with, and I'm like, you and me, girl, because she's only like 13, 14 years older than me. So I'm like, you and me, girl, we're going to like live in a retirement home, Golden Girls.
Right.
And like, she and I have joked about that since I was like 15, 16 years old. And she's a Libra. And she will tell you, she's like, oh, I am bleeding heart, super sensitive, like quick to injure, like, and not get over it super quick, or not like really not like just really like, because I'm a Leo.
Yeah.
Like, I feel all like my shit's intense.
Oh yeah.
But I also, as a Leo, I can get over it real quick.
Yeah.
I take note, and if you've wronged me or I feel wronged or the situation, whatever, I will take note. And it'll always sit there, you know, never forget. But the actual, like, upsetness and the actual, like, oh, I'm injured, whatever, we're over it within, like, an hour. Like, it does not sit with us.
Exactly.
Like,
I just like this sort of transit because I think a lot of people do associate cancers with just, you know, being sad.
Super. But they can anger.
Yes.
They'll slash your tires.
Exactly. But yeah, I just think that a lot of people don't acknowledge the fact that it's not just those weepy emotions, it's the whole range of human emotion that they express so strongly.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really, you know, it's important to say that, you know what, rage is an emotion. Rage is emotional.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of people don't want to acknowledge that. No. And I think that's important to acknowledge as this transit moves through Cancer.
Cancers, we see you.
Yes.
January 8th. Mercury moves into Capricorn. This will drive us to be direct and upfront in communicating with others. So that is January 8th. So if you have felt since January 8th this urge to just really just speak your mind, not sugarcoat, not keep anything back, like speak what you're feeling, this is why. So today, January 13th, the new moon. Excuse me, the full moon. The new moon. The full moon. Hung up on the last episode. Lock him up. First full moon of the new year. It's a cold moon or wolf moon. It's moving into Cancer. So this is all about big emotions and taking action based off of said emotions. Once again, really that plays into Mercury moving into Capricorn and being direct and upfront with our emotions and feelings with others. That really just is reinforced here it's about big emotions. This is about really confronting and feeling your big shit and speaking your truth and putting it out there. So this is the time to do it. So if you've been feeling it and you're like, you know, I'm really upset about this, or I'm really happy about this, or I'm in love with this person, whatever. This is the time.
Yeah.
Make those declarations. Be forward, be upfront, be honest and truthful with who you are. January 16th, Mars ascends into Sagittarius. Out of the retrograde.
Woohoo!
It's ruled by Jupiter. So Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. And Mars and Jupiter are friends. Oh. So cute.
Maybe they'll skip off into the sunset together.
Maybe. So this is really like just pragmatic blessings all around. This is all about like happiness, fulfillment, time for deep manifestation, time to, if like, let's say you are a not naturally inclined witch, it takes a little more work to get your spells going. You don't have the touch. Then this is actually a really good time to jump on those big spells that you have maybe been wanting to do, but you maybe haven't been feeling very confident in yourself and in your skills. If you're a new witch or a baby witch, which for some reason people have a problem with that. I don't know if you do.
No, I don't. I think it's beautiful when people want to learn.
Yeah, and I think it's cute. Like when I was like, oh my God, when I was in elementary school, middle school, I totally was like, I'm a baby witch. Like I think I said like I was just like a little witch or like the littlest witch. Like, but I call myself like I was a kid witch. Yeah. I was like, that's like I think even if like, and I saw, and we'll do it I think in a future episode, I really think we should actually address this controversy, because I've seen some fucked up comments about like, you're infantilizing the craft and you're infantilizing it. Just fuck you. Like if you're starting out and you're like, I'm a baby witch, like I don't know, baby witches, or if you're like actually like a teen, like you're a young person, a child who is starting in the craft, like
everyone has to start somewhere.
Exactly. So if you are a baby witch or a kid witch, a little witch, the littlest witch, a cute witch, like me, cute, adorable, then this is the time. This June 16th, when Mars ascends into Sagittarius and Jupiter and Mars start hanging out, June 16th on, this is when you want to do your stuff. The 21st of January.
Wait, did you say June?
January 16th. January 16th.
I was like, when did we skip to June?
No, January 16th. Ignore that. January 16th. Excuse me, I can't read my own fucking handwriting. I'm left-handed. So that tells you everything you need to know. The Devil's Child. The 21st of January, the Sun enters Aquarius and meets with Pluto, bringing a new sense of confidence and power and control over events. Again, perfect time for your big spells. This is the time. Whatever big shit you're trying to manifest, this is the time. June 16th onward. Everything is aligning for you to like make the big spells, the big boons, the big demands, the big commands to the universe, the big boomerang send it backs. This is the time starting January. I can't read my own handwriting. January 16th onward. So, with the 29th, which is the new moon, finally, we're at the new moon, not today. Aquarius, the new moon is in Aquarius, and this coincides with the Chinese New Year, and this year it is the year of the wood snake. People born of the year of the rooster, the year of the horse, the year of the dragon, the year of the monkey, and the year of the rat. This is going to be a very, very good luck year. And this is all about reclaiming deeper connection and understanding with spirituality. In the case of being a witch, if you're joining us and you are a witch, this is about connecting deeper with your witchcraft, which whatever deities you follow. 2025 is the year to get a deeper sense of your spirituality, whatever that may be. This is also a time where you will be, once again, also about new beginnings and endings, transitions. The snake is the most divine creature. It is among all the zodiac signs of the Chinese wheel. The snake is the one closest to the resounding heartbeat of Mother Earth, of the goddess. So this is the prime year for divine reconnecting. So have at it, witches. And with that being said, that was the Astrology Mixology for the month of January. Make sure I got that. January. And we will see where we are in our journey for February next month.
Yeah, and just one more thing to add to astrology, specifically, not specifically for January, but overall for 2025. So what I have been reading about, and I think it's really interesting, is that the year 2025 in numerology is the year of 9. So 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, which corresponds with the Hermit card in tarot. So it really is just a time, I mean, like we were saying, it's a time of introspection, of really doing that deeper inner work, of reconnecting with your witchcraft in the deepest way. Like, it is really just that time to go inward, be reflective, and do that work to get yourself up to the next level in your life where you would like to be.
Yes. That is amazing. I did not realize that.
Yeah.
And that completely makes sense, especially that corresponds with the Hermit card.
Yeah.
Also, 9 in numerology, if like you do your name and shit and all your stuff and it adds up to 9, that means you're on your last cycle, your last level of life. Like you are basically, this is it.
Yeah.
Like you don't have any more, you're not coming back. You are becoming a realized being. Like you are in your final stage. Like, so for it to represent this year, that completely coincides with this whole thing about this call to spiritual deepening.
Yeah, it's almost like it's in the same way as it's the, you know, if it's your name, it's the last level before you complete your cycle as a soul. Like I think that it sort of correlates to, in the year of the 9, it is the last level before you get to attain those big goals that you've been working towards.
Yeah, 100%. And for it to be the Hermit, well, we're going to assume it's the Hermit right side up. We're going to assume it's Hermit upright, not reversed. Oh, God, if it was. But the Hermit right side up is all about looking inward. It's all about the Hermit retreating willingly to learn deeper esoteric, theological, thaumaturgic, occult study, alchemy, etc. So like in connecting with the higher divine self. So like that's just crazy to me.
I know.
Mind blown. So there you have it, the Astrology Mixology for the month of January. And next we will get into our first actual main topic of the show, Wicked. So stay tuned. And we're back.
And we're back. So without further ado, let's get into our segment all about Wicked.
Yes, it's all about Wicked.
Now, of course, most of you know what Wicked is, but if you've somehow been living under a rock, it was originally a book that was retelling the story of the Wizard of Oz from the Wicked Witch's perspective. Became a huge musical starring Kristen Chenoweth. Love you, girl. And Idina Menzel. I love you less, but you know, you're still fine. It's all about Kristen for me, though.
Same.
And now it's become a very big budget film.
Yes, it has.
Yes, starring Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande.
Yes. Not just a drink from Starbucks.
Exactly. Now, I will be the first to admit I'm not a big fan of Wicked in general. No. You know, I was a musical theater major in college. I am very much a snob about my musicals.
Yes.
It's not my favorite thing. No shame to anyone who loves it. Like, I love that people have differing opinions on theater and film. In fact, like, with film specifically, that's one of my favorite things about it, is having a discourse, because two people can see the same scene and it can mean completely opposite things to them.
Correct.
I think
just like how you can hear a song and
the
same song means something completely different to two different people who are listening to it.
Exactly.
Depending on shit.
So although I did not like the book or the musical of Wicked, I still do have a lot of respect for it because it was just a huge piece of witchy media. It's an iconic work. I do not happen to personally care for it, but I cannot deny its cultural impact. With the release of the movie, it has sparked a lot of discourse in the Evangelical Christian community about the supposed subtext and subliminal messaging in Wicked, to the tune of essentially it's trying to corrupt our future children into practicing witchcraft, and not just witchcraft, but selling our blood and souls to the devil.
Right, and don't forget homosexuality.
Oh yes, and homosexuality. Can't forget that little gem as well.
No.
A lot of discourse about how the movie is suddenly making Wicked gay when gay subtext has always been a part of Wicked.
Well, and also just the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, and the Wizard of Oz in general. Yes, which I will get into in a little bit as well. But so the first example that I would love to discuss is a lady by the name, and I apologize if I am mispronouncing her name, but it's Angela Marie Scafidi.
Or Scafidi?
Scafidi. I'm
Scafati?
not sure.
Biscotti?
Biscotti.
I don't care if I insult you. So.
Right. I just don't like being wrong and mispronouncing things.
So hopefully
I said it right. But she has the Heaven and Healing podcast.
Yes.
That is the name of her podcast.
Yes, it is. In neon.
Yes, in neon. And then she's got a lot of plants behind her head, but she doesn't wash her hair before she goes on camera.
Clearly not.
I did today. So
Good,
I've already won.
Already.
In the war against Christians and witches, we won because we bathe.
We bathe.
So anyways, she said a lot of crazy shit on her podcast.
Okay.
But one thing that stuck out to me was that she talked about how Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande got matching tattoos.
That say like for good or something.
Yeah, it's for good. It's, you know, a
reference
dedicated to their work on the movie and, you know, their work together as actors, blah, blah.
Right.
So Angela says that those tattoos are equivalent to blood sacrifice.
Okay.
She says that these two women now have a blood covenant to each other as well as to the movie.
Oh, okay.
And she also says
Praise Hollywood.
Right. And she also says that that is the reason why the movie is doing as well as it is, because they've committed this act of blood sacrifice and ritual.
Huh. Yeah.
Yes.
No. A tattoo is a tattoo. Yeah. Saying, what was it? That when you get a tattoo with intention, I think it was, she said, when you get a tattoo with intention, it will, it is a spell. It is a pact.
Yes.
If you get a tattoo with intention. So here's the thing. First and foremost, every tattoo you get should be with intention. Otherwise, you're going to regret getting it. Like, every tattoo you get better means something.
Exactly.
Or even if it's a shitty tattoo that, like, you did get spur of the moment, the memory around the events, like, maybe it was a crazy night out with friends or something that you'll never forget, or, you know, maybe you guys don't see each other anymore, or one of you was passed, or whatever. Like, it just, or you guys still do, but that night was just so amazing. Like, so even though it's a stupid tattoo of Marvin the Martian, like,
when you look at it, you see.
You remember the good shit, then that's fine. But if you literally just are fucked up, or whatever, you just go and you're like, I don't know what I want, and you just pick something and it doesn't really matter, you're gonna probably regret it. Every tattoo should mean something.
I actually knew a guy in high school, and he was, I'm not gonna name names, of course. I would never do that. But he was a little bit of a douche.
Okay.
He had a reputation for being a douche.
Okay.
But we had some friends in common. And I remember I think it was the week after we had all graduated from high school, and I found myself over at this guy's apartment. Well, he had turned 18, and of course he had to get a tattoo as soon as he turned 18.
Yes, of course.
Right. Didn't really know what it was that he wanted. And he ended up with a Wonder Bread logo on his chest.
I mean, if you really like Wonder Bread, or if, let's say, you're a cook or something, like, get it. Or, like, you genuinely like, abstractly, like, you like the pattern, the art, the logo design, the color, panel, wheel, primary color layover. The Wonder Bread shit. Like, that's great. But if, like, you literally are just like, I don't know what to get, so you just get that, I'm gonna guess he probably regrets it.
I'm sure he does. I mean, I haven't talked to him since then. We were 18 at the time, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, I would be very curious to see if he does regret it, because clearly that was not a tattoo that had that intention into it.
No. So, yeah, if you, get a tattoo, make sure there's intention behind it. So, but yeah, because you get a tattoo and there's intention behind it, it's a spell, it's a blood pact with the devil, a blood pact with the movie, which is funny to me. It wasn't Hollywood. She didn't say Hollywood, or like it was with the movie, as if the movie in itself was an entity. They made a blood pact with the movie, which is why it's doing so well. So, like, yeah, it did. Oh, and she also, her just talking about, like, how, like, the movie is witchcraft and witchcraft is manipulation.
Yes,
and, like, and they're doing, like, when the movie is doing spells over the audience.
But it had no spells
in it. It had no spells in it. There were no actual spells. Well, I take that back. No. I take that back. There is a moment in the film where there are 2 spells uttered. Okay. It's the spell that makes the monkeys become flying monkeys. It gives them their wings. And then the spell that enchants her broomstick and makes it fly. So there's two spells. Other than that, though, there are no spells actually uttered in the film. Magic just is happening.
Right. But clearly what she is saying is, under the guise of uttering these spells for the monkeys,
it's seducing,
it's casting a spell over the audience to have the movie do well. Which is a whole other level of crazy.
And seducing them into witchcraft.
Yes.
Seducing the viewers into witchcraft and into and that's the witches and the demons, the spells and the demons is what she kept, specifically how she kept describing it. So, Yeah, she was a kook.
Yeah, she was. So the next kook that we are going to get into is, I believe he is a Christian author, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, I bow before you. Anyways. But I believe he is a Christian author named Isaiah Salvador.
And yes, and a podcaster. Yes.
Saldivar, not
okay.
Salvador.
Yeah, Saldivar.
Isaiah Saldivar.
Yes.
See, now I'm doing the June-January thing.
Yeah,
it's just
no.
blah.
Whatever. I don't care if he sees us as insulted. Like, I really hope he just gets raptured.
I don't care if he sees it. I just want to be informed about what I'm talking about.
Right.
So I would feel bad if I was,
mispronouncing his
the
name.
facts,
Right. Yeah.
But anyways, so he also did not watch the movie.
Okay.
But he did take to his channel, and I'm not clear if it was a YouTube video or if he was actually going on someone else's podcast, but either way, he was filmed in this interview, and he was discussing an incident where when like the Wicked Barbie dolls were released,
yes,
Mattel accidentally printed wicked.com instead of wickedmovie.com on the back of the dolls. This wicked.com goes to an adult entertainment website, which was clearly, an error by someone at Mattel.
Right. Non-intentional.
Exactly.
I'm sure.
And once Mattel realized their error, they pulled all the dolls, they issued a public statement, they corrected their mistake and put the new dolls back.
As you would expect.
Right.
That's the same person.
So he goes on his video, and he's insinuating that this was all very much intentional, a way to. I'm not sure if he was. There was a lot of points going on, but I'm not sure if his main point was that children were being abused and manipulated, or just coerced into witchcraft. He was not very, very clear in what he was actually saying. He also said that he would not personally go to see the movie solely because it is called Wicked.
Right.
And he equates that with telling America's youth to do wicked things. Yes. Illegal things, morally corrupt, blah, blah, blah. Just lots.
Fuck it all, burn it down.
Right. Lots of proselytizing going on. But what I find funniest about this part of the story is that he has a book that just came out.
Oh, does he?
He does. And it is called How to Cast Out Demons.
So it's like about deliverance?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's cute.
Right. So he's apparently a demonologist.
Well, and here's the thing. So that's the thing is they will say, so in like the evangelical non-denominational Protestant Christianity, blah, 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 they are like, I've been born again. I've been saved. Right. Therefore, I can cast out demons because in the Bible, Jesus says, supposedly, written 400 years later by somebody who never met him, that supposedly Jesus said, like, once I baptize you, I give you the power to cast out demons, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So they're just like, I don't need to be learned. I don't need to be learned. I don't need to study demonology. I don't need to enroll in exorcist camp with the other Catholics or whatever. Like, they're just like, I have a Bible. I have a cross. I have a turquoise bolo tie.
Right.
And aviator shades.
Yeah. And that's all.
And cowboy boots. I can cast out demons. Or in his case, I got sneakers, I got some loose fit but still fit jeans, a t-shirt, short buzz, and...
Oh, and his t-shirt said "Fear God," by the way.
Of course it did.
I could not look away.
Of course it said "Fear God," because that's... Of course it did. Yeah. Of course it did.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So...
Anyone else?
Yes, there is one last sack of crazy.
Okay.
And that is Mark Driscoll.
Mars Hill Mark Driscoll.
Yes, Mars Hill Mark Driscoll.
Right here in our fabulous Seattle area, fabulous Washington, Western Washington, Pacific Northwest.
Absolutely.
Oh boy, okay.
Oh yes. So obviously for those who don't know, he was involved with the Mars Hill Church here in Washington. He was the lead pastor.
The cult.
Yes.
Weird.
Very
they were
weird.
Fucking
very
weird.
But he was cast out of that church in 2014 for allegations of abusive behavior.
Yes.
And that led to bringing down and dissolving the Mars Hill Church.
Yes.
So now he just sort of has his own little church that he's building in his basement.
Right. Via his virtual. It's
yes.
a virtual
yes.
they're all virtual congregations.
Exactly. So he's got, I watched his video, he's got this big American flag behind his head, and he's got like a little cap on. And,
okay.
you know, he's just very like every man that you see at Walmart.
Right, like he's barbecuing in the backyard, he's grilling on
right.
Sunday afternoon, and he's thinking about America, and checking the beer. Yeah, I know him. That was my ex-stepfather.
Yes.
Gross.
So, he did a reaction video on his YouTube channel.
Okay, to the movie?
Not to the movie, but to the trailer of the movie. He did not sit down and watch the movie, but he did film a reaction to the trailer.
Okay, so he's clearly knowledgeable then about Wicked.
Obviously, I mean, he watched a whole 3.5 minutes of it.
Jesus.
What more could we expect him to do?
Mark Driscoll, hats off to you.
Right.
Really put in the effort.
He did. But he referred to Wicked after having watched the trailer as spiritual grooming.
Okie dokie.
Yes. Very much of the camp that if you take your child to see Wicked, you are exposing them to the devil. They are going to go out and become a witch and become gay. All of that fun stuff.
But just hands.
And what did he say? He said something like it was evangelical, not advertising.
Manipulation.
Yeah, something like that.
Evangelical manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Influence, manipulate, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It wasn't either of those exact words, but I can't think of what it was because I just blocked it out of my mind.
Sure, I mean, as you would. He's poison.
Yeah, he is. But yes, clearly 100% believes these things that he is pumping out into the world. And what really struck me that he said, which just really goes back into the hypocrisy of a lot of these Christian influencers.
Yes.
Was that if you are a Christian parent supporting Wicked and not tithing to your church, quote unquote, you are literally funding evil. Yeah. That is an exact direct quote of what he said.
If you buy tickets to Wicked to go see Wicked, and you don't tithe to your church, or instead of tithing to your church, then you are actively funding the devil.
Yes.
And you are a bad Christian, and you're
a bad parent,
and you are the problem.
Yeah, yes, and that's what he followed it up with. You are part of the problem.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So that's what I heard from the other room.
Yeah.
When we prep for these episodes, we just divide up the segments. So as we said we would do in our first video. So we don't watch everything all the time together. So I just heard bits, but I heard that. And I was like, what? Like, you are the problem or a part of the problem? Okay, well, Mark Driscoll.
Right.
That tracks with your complete fucking history and abusive, crazy cult leader freaking behavior. Like, that completely tracks that you would say loony shit like that.
Yes. And one thing I find interesting...
And of course it's about money. Because
of course, it's
Mars,
about
the whole
money.
shit about Mars with Mars Hill, and I remember there was a whole issue with money or money laundering or accusations of money laundering. And Mark Driscoll was like siphoning a bunch of fucking money. Like, dirty. He's so dirty. Ugh, they're so dirty.
Exactly.
They're also dirty. They're as dirty as that woman's hair.
Yeah, and
I saw that part of the Angela Scafferty chick. I did see her segment. She was dirty. She was dirty.
And yeah, it's
bathe, girl, bathe. You ratchet. You're ratchet.
Along the same lines as Mark Driscoll, Isaiah is ending his episode with saying, "Oh, instead of going to see Wicked and supporting evil, just buy my book about how to cast out demons." Because after your child sees Wicked, you gonna need it. Like, that is the...
Yeah, wow.
And one thing that was a common thread between all three of them was the gay stuff.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
All the gay shit.
Yeah, all the gay stuff. I believe what Angela phrased it as was that it's, the promos of the movie should be about the production and the quality and blah. But in her words, they were twisting it to make it gay. So a lot, they're all just talking about how the new movie is propagandizing gayness and giving.
Oh yeah, and then she said something about, she was like, oh, I remember, she said something about this is actually why I left the room. Was at this point I was like, I don't want to see more of this. Have fun researching all these people. I was like, glad you pulled Wicked out of the hat.
Right.
Was she said something? Oh, what was it? It was oh, and I'm not casting blame on the gay people, on the community, because they are victims. They are victims. They're sick. They're victims. They're possessed of this witchcraft manipulation. Yes. They're in subservience to the devil.
Right.
That's when I was like, bye.
Nope.
Girl, bye. Have fun choking this shit down.
Right. But what I actually find interesting about that, and this is the message that all three, having not even seen the movie, that all three of them are pushing on their subscribers and their followers, is that Wicked has always had a gay text to it. From the first time that actually, I mean, I was going to say from the original book, but actually going all the way back to the 1900 novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum, there has always been a gay note to this story. So firstly, not with that book specifically, but with some of his other books, he would often publish under female pen names.
Okay, yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. Sometimes, you know, for a certain purpose, and other times just because he felt that he would be more celebrated in his stories coming from a female.
If it was written, if those type of women books were written by a woman,
exactly,
maybe they would be more accepted than if a man wrote them.
And then in the second Wizard of Oz novel, The Marvelous Land of Oz, there is a prince who transforms into being a woman, and he or she is called Princess Ozma.
Yes.
Yes. And so in that book, Princess Ozma and Dorothy actually do have a romantic relationship.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And that continued with the novel Wicked by Gregory Maguire, who is a gay author.
Yes.
He wrote it.
Of course, a gay man wrote Wicked. Of course. The Lifetime of the Wicked Rose of the West. Of course, it was written by a gay man.
Right.
Like, of course.
So he wrote it with the intention of there being sexual tension between Glenda and Elphaba.
Yeah.
I've pronounced it Elphaba my entire freaking life.
No, that's how I pronounced it. Yeah. You're not wrong. And I know other people who also pronounced it that way.
Good. Because
and the reason I did was because I asked someone how, because I wasn't sure, and I was like, how do you say this? And they said Elphaba. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. I actually heard it pronounced for the first time recently. It was, I was actually watching like a YouTube family vlog, and the girl had taken her young daughter to go see it, and the daughter was like very into Wicked and was very excited about it. And I heard the mom pronounce Elphaba's name, and I was like mind blown. My entire life is a lie. So if I hesitate, please know I know her name. I'm just trying to remember that it's not pronounced the way I intuitively would say it. But yeah, I think it's very interesting that there have always been these gay subtexts through every version of the story that has ever happened, and yet these evangelical Christians are turning around and behaving as though this is a new thing brought in by the film. Right.
Well, and that's because they have their silver screen tinted ideas of the Wizard of Oz from Judy Garland, which that in itself is really fucking gay.
Exactly.
Like, it's really gay, and we all know it's really gay. Like, I don't know.
In fact, like 1 Million Moms, horrible organization.
Especially there's only like 10,000 of them, maybe 2,000.
Just went on a rampage about this on social media, and Kristen Chenoweth, who originated the role of Glenda on Broadway, came and clapped back, and she was like, I am a Christian woman, and I originated this role, and this role has always been inclusive of the LGBTQ community. And Kristen, go off.
I mean, it's, you know, it's this new wave of Puritanism that we're seeing in this country that is now in control and has been uprising, and that, you know, people like me who had a nice, and I mean nice in air quotes because it was not nice, it was terrifying and bleak and depressing and torturous experience growing up with a window sneak peek into the non-denominational evangelical Christian Protestant fundamentalist right-wing GOP movement.
Yeah.
And suffered from it. Even though it was never my belief system, I still was abused by it. And still am. So that's great. Anyway, but I got a sneak peek. And so they've been prepping for all of this for decades, and they uphold the Puritans.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the Puritans are, like, they don't have saints, and they would be like, oh, Catholics are evil because they worship saints. Like, because they think that, because they don't understand any of that and what that means. No. They just think that they're actually worshiping saints and worshiping these statues, and they don't understand that. No, it's just a vessel, communicative, focused energy to psychically connect, prayer, focus, intent, meditate, blah. Anyway, they are just like, no, evil. But the Puritans are like saints for them. That is, like, they do uphold the Puritans. Like they'll have paintings of the Puritans. Like the Christian evangelical non-denominational Protestant movement of America has always upheld the Puritans and the Puritan ideals, and they never let them go. They've just been in a long wait, a long coup to take complete and utter control and wipe out everything. And for years, I was warning people this is what's going to happen. And everyone, especially during Obama, everyone's like, no, it's not like that anymore. Everything's good. And no, those people, they don't even make up the Republican Party anymore. They're such a small group, blah, blah, blah. Really? Because now they're in fucking control, and they've already gotten rid of Roe v. Wade. Like, and they're already getting rid of a bunch of other shit. And I'm sorry, but before they even did Roe v. Wade, they already passed that Religious Freedom Act, which codified into law that businesses could discriminate against people for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender, queer, whatever. Like, there wasn't a lot of hoopla uproar about that. Why? Oh, because it was a gay affecting law. So it didn't affect straight people. This affects everybody, though. This affects straight people. So therefore, Roe v. Wade, that gets a big hoopla about. Rightfully so, but they all should have gotten a big hoopla.
I agree.
And
I mean, it's just like how we don't acknowledge that the Burning Times were genocide because the target was witches.
Right, exactly. And then the excuse is, well, most of them were actual witches, so therefore... But you know what? Some were. There were, for, you know, I will tell you, in every village where someone was killed, I will guarantee you, someone there practiced witchcraft, someone there practiced folk magic. Like, someone, at least one person who was put to death was. And out of the accused and tortured, maybe not put to death, but accused, tortured, and held prison, at least maybe 5 people in there were actual practitioners of magic in some way, shape, or form. Like, it would be witches. Like, I think there were witches there. And the target was still witches.
Yes. And I think, actually, the fact that so many others of those who were accused and even put to death were not actual witches makes it so much more insidious and dangerous.
Yes.
Because it was just such a hatred of witches that it didn't matter the facts. It mattered to sniff out those who were different from the societal norms of the time. And eradicate all of them. And yeah, it's just one of those things I prayed that I would never personally witness, and we are.
Yeah, we're moving into it. Like, the Puritans have took control, and I think, and I know, that it's going to get a lot worse. I think a lot of us know that. And, you know, we have felt in our own life, and we'll get, you know, into this further, we got called this fucking doing a reading, a deep reading for 2025. We both did, and in both of them, it was very direct from HEKA-TEA that, like, she was calling to us for something deeper because there are bigger things coming. And I think that's true for all of us. I think it's not a coincidence that 2025 and everything here has been about deepening spirituality. The Chinese New Year, the year of the wood snake, is all about deepening connection with spirituality. If you are with the serpent, which, if you're a witch, if you're pagan, if you're a heathen, you're a polytheist, then you know what the serpent represents, what the serpent means. Regardless if it's Santeria, if it's fucking voodoo, hoodoo, voodoo, if it's, you know, Celtic paganism, Norse paganism, if it's Wiccan, Gardenian, Alexandrian, eclectic, whatever the fuck, witch, you're just a witch, you're whatever, you know the sacredness of the serpent. Every magical path, the serpent is there, and the serpent is sacred. We know what the serpent means. Like, this is the time for that. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this is all happening, that we're being called to arms in 2025 to strengthen ourselves as witches, when they are now all in power here in America,
Exactly.
and not just in America, all throughout the Western world. The right is taking power, is taking control.
Oh, yeah.
And it's fucking terrifying.
It really is.
France is
Like,
fucking, what the fuck?
You know, that's really funny. I was actually just thinking in my brain, like, about how bad things are in France right now, and then you said it.
Right, France, what the
Yeah.
fuck? Like, so shit's going, and this is just that new satanic panic.
Yeah.
And like, again, they don't differentiate between witches, Satanists, mambos, gurus, yogis, priests. They don't differentiate. Druid, they don't no. It is all evil. It is all of the Satan. It is all of the devil. It is an abomination, and you've sold your soul. You're committing acts on behalf of the devil to bring down civilization, humanity, and you are at war with God. That is just where we're at, and that is what they believe. That is what they believe Wicked is an instrument of.
Exactly.
And that Wicked is doing this. The evil, satanic, witchcraft gaze of the cabal of control are controlling Wicked, and they have put all this together, and this is what's going to happen.
They're coming for your children. I don't know. I just think it's really interesting, and I know, like, you and I are both people who really love history, but I find it very interesting how much of those Puritan ideologies and cultural situations have really endured through Puritan culture, stemming from those first initial Puritans of the 16th and 17th centuries, all the way up until the modern day evangelicals that you see on YouTube. And I just think it's objectively very fascinating.
Yeah, objectively, totally.
Yeah.
It is. It's really fascinating. Their complete media illiteracy and detachment
Yeah.
from life and reality. But it's terrifying that they're in
absolutely.
power.
Yes.
And it's also, what's also terrifying is the fact that all these people have millions of listeners.
Exactly.
Millions of listeners, followers, subscribers, whatever. And maybe more so with Salvador, whatever his name is. Isaiah and Mark Driscoll. They might have cross viewers. But I highly doubt that
that the Angela
that
viewers
the Angela listener viewers, whatever,
are also Mark Driscoll viewers.
They're probably Girls Got Bible.
Yeah, exactly.
Like more of the trad wife, more of the like cute Christian girl fucking thing than listening to Mark Driscoll or Isaiah.
Right.
So like, and they've all got millions. And they also, if you want to do like a right-wing podcast, a Christian podcast, whatever, there is an entire like corporation function, like conglomerate behind you that will fund you, train you, and then put you out there.
Exactly.
Like, so
where's that for us, man?
Right, exactly.
Where's our witch conglomerate?
Right, exactly. Where are you? So, you know, it's just a rehash, resurface, whatever, once again, of another satanic panic, another witch hunt. And it really doesn't have anything to do with Satan. Honestly, and I'm going to be honest, the Christians shouldn't fear the Satanists, the atheist Satanists. Like, they need to, honestly, they should fear the witches. Because, like, the goddess is calling. Like, the goddess is, like, there's so much, like, witch media, witch music coming out right now from young witch artists. And they're, like, songs that are, like, battle cries.
Yeah.
Calling you out, calling you to arms, calling to battle as witches, to get ready for this wave of Christian terror, this Abrahamic religious terror, because it's all of them. All three, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, and every branch from them, all the Abrahamic faiths are always devouring within each other and then externally with each other.
Exactly.
But
I mean, even some Christians being at war with other denominations.
Exactly.
You know?
Like, it's all devouring within and trying to devour without all the time. And, like, they're now rising in the Western world, in countries that we never thought that we would see the far right, these movements, these racist, nationalist, white Christian, nationalist movements, homegrown movements rising again. But they are, and now they have seats of power and decision-making in places we just would never imagine would ever be like that. That was always like, that's where, if you grew up here, and you hated the fucking Republican GOP Christian right-wing regime, countries that you wanted to escape to, that you dreamed of moving to be in as a free person of who you are. Now, no place is okay.
Oh yeah, and there's nowhere to go, unfortunately.
So Ireland. So the goddess is calling, and there's a reason. And I think, like, the Christians, they do need to fear the witches. Be afraid. Be very afraid. But not for the reasons that you think.
Okay, Wednesday Addams.
But not for the reasons you think, or the reasons you're afraid of, and not for the deity you think it's in service for, because it's not. But
exactly,
you should fear the witches, because we're not going to let you get away with it.
Exactly.
And we've been seeing this since Pizzagate and Hillary
Yes.
Clinton and the cabal of satanic Democrat pact with the devil, children adrenochrome that fuels QAnon, and that they all still fucking believe, and Marjorie Taylor Greene still accuses and talks about, and they all believe this crazy shit still. They do still all believe all of this, you guys. And it never stops, and it just is just built and built and built since Pizzagate.
Yes.
And this is now where it's culminated, and now they're all in power because this coup to have every branch of government and to control the Supreme Court, this was planned back in the late 60s within the party. Exactly. This has been a very slow-moving coup that everyone just chose to ignore. Exactly. Even though it kept happening right in front of everybody.
Repeatedly over the years.
No one bothered, no one cared to believe it because it was just religion, politics. You don't want to touch any of it. You want to stay away from all of it. So why deal with it? Right. Well, this is what happens when you don't deal with it.
Exactly.
So, anyway, go see Wicked. Right, give your money to witchcraft and magic and Satan and homosexuality, and don't tithe to any fucking church, especially any church run by Mark fucking Driscoll.
Right. And don't spend your money on Isaiah's demon book.
No books on deliverance. Don't waste your time. Not Isaiah. He can go fuck himself too. If you're watching this though, you probably wouldn't buy his book unless it was to make fun of him and burn it and shit.
Right. That's true.
So, but still, don't. Anyway, moving on into SpellCraft. And this is our SpellCraft for the month of January. We have been enjoying... I don't keep my shit organized. It just is what it is. I am not Barbara Walters. I am not Diane Sawyer. I am not Katie Couric. I'm just not. I'm sorry. I'm more like Lisa Ling after A Night at the Rave. Which she was a huge raver. She was a huge raver back in the day. So that was not a wrong statement.
No.
All right, so SpellCraft for the month of January, and it's all about money spells, prosperity. Yes. So why don't you kick us off?
Sure. So the spell that I chose is called the Green Ribbon spell, and don't worry, this does not involve my head falling off of my neck.
What about a codfish tail?
No.
Okay.
Not today.
Not today.
Maybe tomorrow.
Darn. All right.
All right, so basically, this is a very simple spell, but one that's very potent for drawing financial success your way. So you're going to visualize what it is that you need.
Okay.
Verbalize it aloud, and of course, as always, use very specific, very clear, non-ubiquitous language.
Yes.
Because if you are vague, and this is something that when I first started practicing, I really struggled with at first because, I tend to be someone who uses veiled language a lot. However, in magic, you can't do that. You just got to go in, say exactly, no uncertain terms, what it is that you want, because if you do say something more subtly, a lot of the times they will follow your verbal instructions while doing the opposite of what your true point was.
Right.
So you got to make that shit very clear and unmistakable.
Yes.
Anyway, so you take a green silk ribbon and you make 9 knots in the ribbon. So while forming each knot, repeat your incantation that you came up with.
Okay.
Each time that you come to a knot and you're tying it, you're going to repeat that incantation, move on to the next knot, repeat it while you're tying it, so on and so forth. Once they've all been done, keep the knots in a safe place. Personally for me, I would use a conjure bag.
Right.
You can also use a box that's filled with other wealth drawing charms, things like that. Or you can also, if you have the access to a place like this, you can also just go and bury it in the earth if you do live in a house where you have a front yard.
Okay.
And once that's in there and that's safe and secure, it will be working and working and working to draw that success and that hope to you.
Perfect.
And that's it.
I love it. I love it. It's easy. I like when it's a craft.
Yeah.
I like when it's SpellCraft and it's actually craft. After it's on the craft and you're actually doing shit. I have a craft one too.
Yay!
So, this is also for your money for the year. Good time. I mean, we just spent a shit ton of money on the holidays. I'm sure you guys did too. Yeah. We did do better than we have, though. We did spend less this year, but we were both guilty of spending still
more than we should have. Yeah. But we did go into it with the intention of being a little more restrained, and I think we should still stick to that.
We did. But you're going to feel a pinch. We're all feeling a pinch right now. Yeah. So, get a green candle. Charge it with your financial desires. Keep them realistic. This is about quick money. So don't be like, $1 million
Right.
if that's not realistic to your financial situation.
Yeah.
If that is realistic to your financial situation, and you might have like, oh, I need $1 million because I'm out
Yeah.
and I'm gonna hit up mumsy and papoos and I want to make sure that they say yes because they were adamant that they were never that the
This
last
was my
million,
last million.
it was the last one. Then like sure, if $1 million is realistic, or let's say maybe you won the lottery.
Right.
And but like you said, I want the money in increments.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say maybe for whatever reason you blew through $55,000 that month at the beginning of the month, and you typically won't get money again, another $55,000 until the next month, in your incremental sum.
Right.
Then by all means do a spell to get like $20K
right.
sent, like released to you from the bank, and then call the bank, and and then they'll be like your financial advisor, and they'll be like, yeah, sure. Like if that is financially reasonable for you, then please do. But keep your request in the realm of financial reality for you. So once you've charged it with your realistic financial desires, you will carve money symbols into it. So it can be $, whatever represents money for you, or you can just carve in your desire, or you write it out, whatever. Just carve in symbols of money and what that means to you. And so it could be coins, dollar bill, whatever. Just carve it into the thing. And then hollow out the base of the candle. So you're just really going to want to do this by, I mean, I guess you could scrape it. I would kind of stab it in with like a hot Mormon knife, and then kind of just stab it in. And
Yeah.
you're going to have to kind of hacksaw it. So don't use a taper. You want to get like a
Like a
pillar,
pillar.
like you want a pillar candle. You need some room so you can carve out a hole.
Yeah.
And then you are going to pack your hole
Sorry.
with basil. You're going to pack your hole with basil. You're going to pack it tight. You're going to make sure it's tightly packed. And then you are going to burn it, and burn it safely because you want to burn it all the way through. And then when you light it, you're going to chant 3 times. By the power of 3, I draw to me. By HEKA-TEA's might, I summon thee. By my desires, I send out this spell, granting abundance and making my bank account swell. 3 times when you light the candle. Make sure it burns down all the way. Obviously, do not use fresh basil leaves, because they will not burn. You want to use dry basil from your spice cupboard, spice rack, when you pack your hole. When you stuff it tight in the hole.
In the hole. Right in there.
Right in there. Just pack it.
Mm-hmm.
Real good. Real good. Anyway, that was SpellCraft. So that was SpellCraft for January. Great blessings to you. Let us know in the comment section if you did them, either of them, how it worked for you. Any of you watching happen to be in that upper tax bracket and could actually do your request realistically for a super high amount of money. I actually would just love to know that you exist.
Right.
Not to hit you up for money. I just please comment so I know that you exist. That's because that would be hilarious. And my conical hat would be off to thee.
Exactly.
Also share in the comments your
favorite
money
January
spells. Yeah, January spells, your favorite prosperity spells, luck spells, money spells. It's all about abundance. This is all about abundance this time around.
Kicking this Year of the Hermit off right.
Exactly. So without further ado, again, we're going to get into episode 2 of Pagan Invasion.
Oh, yes.
We've returned to the Crystal Castle
We have.
in the kingdom of the Crystal Palaces to join Carol Matriciana and Chuck Smith Sr. on the double wide throne of Christian knowledge before the doors of segments of despair and paganism.
Right.
To learn about the invasion of the Godmen.
Yes.
So I was like, what the fuck are Godmen?
I know. I had the same reaction. I was like, do I even want to know what is a Godman?
I kept picturing like goat men.
No,
like
me
goat
too.
people. For some reason, Godmen, I pictured like people wearing like goat masks. I was like, what cult is this?
Right.
Like, what is the Godmen? It was Hindus. It was Hindus. It was yogis.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, this was filmed in 1991.
Yes.
This is when this came out. And again, as we've addressed in the previous 2 episodes, you're like, well, then why would that matter now? Because they still watch these videos
Yes.
in churches.
I mean, there's a
They
reason-
still show them on the Bible channels, like especially around Halloween time. Pagan Invasion still gets aired. It still gets shown, and stuff like this, teachings like this, are still taught. And the people we just talked about, the Mark Driscolls,
Yes.
the scaffolding, whatever, Isaiahs, they were raised with this knowledge.
Yes.
And the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Mike Pences, all of them. This is what they believe, and this is now who's in power. The Brett Kavanaughs.
Mm-hmm.
This is what they fucking believe. This crazy shit. So this is why Pagan Invasion is still relevant. And so even though it's 1991, they are like, oh, it's Hinduism.
Right.
And they're referencing the movement of Hinduism in the 60s and 70s specifically. So they just say that in Hinduism, the Brahmins are part of God, or even more powerful than God. Now, here's the thing, first and foremost. In all of this, it goes loony, racist, Christian fundamentalist insanity, uneducated right off the bat.
From the get-go.
They don't even, like we were joking about, they lure you in with the first two episodes, like the first episode with the Halloween one where it starts off, the first half slightly semi-educational and true, and then they hit you with the crazy Christian insanity. Well, now they know they've roped you in. You're at volume 2. If you're watching this series, you probably, you know, in their mind, or like if you're watching the series, you probably believe this shit already. So they don't even bother to try to sound like they know what the fuck they're talking about. They just go straight into crazy, sensationalized Christian propagandist racism.
They went in without any lube.
Right. So the Brahmins, yes, in Hinduism, you are part of God. Correct. You are part of God. Like you and God is a part of you. This is correct. The subject of the Brahmins being even more powerful than God, the way they showed that clip was bullshitly out of context, because the person talking about it was talking specifically, because again, they manipulate you. So they show this documentary that they're like, oh, it's, we went to India on the ground. We sent our people on the ground in the field to talk to people about the yogis and the Brahmins and the shamans, right? And then you find out it's footage from a documentary from 1984, the year I was born, called The Gods of a New Age. Oh, and what is Gods of a New Age? It is the video companion documentary to Carol Matriciana's book of the same name, Gods of a New Age, which came out in like 1982. So, and it's all Christian propaganda in the entire fucking documentary. So what was taken out of context was he was talking specifically about these cult yogis that, again, and we have this conflation of Hinduism as a religion and the faith of the people of India and other places in the East, and of cults that have come out from it that sadly, just like with Jim Jones in Jonestown or David Koresh at fucking Waco, have abused the teachings of a religion to create cults. And so that's what he was referring to, was in those situations, those yogis, those Brahmins, are seen by their followers as being even more powerful than God. But the way they manipulate it in this, it's that in Hinduism, the Brahmins, just in general, the Brahmins teach that you are part of God or even more powerful than God. And it's just right off the bat, edited manipulation and out of context put together. So you're like, okay, fuck, well, buckle up. So then we get to Swami Vivekananda. So he was the first yogi who introduced yoga in Hindu practice in 1892 at the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago, supposedly presenting these teachings as science, which shocked everyone in attendance as they saw Hinduism as an occult abomination. Once again, this is taken completely out of context. In this situation, what he was teaching with science was yoga. The yoga aspect of Hinduism, of Eastern philosophy, he was explaining to these people was actual, like, to get them to understand it and why it was good for them and why they should do it, was that it was scientific, that it had a scientific effect, that it was science. Not that Hinduism in itself as a religion, as a spiritual practice, was science. And I do not think that everyone in attendance saw Hinduism as an occult abomination, as the late 1800s through really through the 1930s, there was a huge, and I mean huge, in terms of levels of spiritualism, which was just up there with fucking regular tent revival Christianity in terms of attendance and belief at that point in the country, right? The Lincolns were spiritualists. Mary Todd Lincoln was a spiritualist. Like, so spiritualism by this point had become a huge fucking thing.
Exactly.
And so in the late Victorian Gilded Age era, Hinduism, Eastern philosophy, yoga became very, very much in vogue, especially amongst the well-to-do, especially amongst the wealthy, especially amongst those in power. Like, especially amongst artists and authors. Like, I highly doubt that everyone in attendance was so shocked because it was seen, this was literally a parliament on religions.
Right.
So you're telling me all these people of various religions of the world who were in attendance for this parliament of religions in Chicago, with all their varied practices, were all horrified by Hinduism. The Tibetans were, the monks, the Buddhists, like, really, I think they're familiar with Hinduism.
Right.
And they're like cousins.
And then it's like, if you think about how...
Brother and sister, like, they're related, they're siblings.
If you think about how insanely, wildly popular yoga was by the 20s.
Right.
I'm sorry, but I do not...
Everyone had a Swami in the 20s.
Exactly. I do not believe for a second that in just 20 years, 20, 30 years, there would have been that dramatic of a cultural shift.
Right.
I really don't.
No. So let's see. Then Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. They reference he was the guru to the Beatles. He performed transcendental meditation, and introduced what they referred to as his sanitized occultism to the world. And then they later reference how the Beatles, after following him for a while, did become, after 2 years, disenfranchised with him and stepped away from him. Once again, used as propagandist manipulation. Why? Because the Beatles, as so many of us know, none of them really left their Eastern philosophies or ideas at any point. They just stopped following this specific yogi, who they were following for 2 years. They didn't abandon an entire belief system. No. But again, it's being used as manipulation in this video because they know the people who are watching this and going to be watching this are families, I'll tell you, the Pagan Invasion, these tapes get played a lot in like the teen youth groups, like the teen groups, they'll get played. Like and if not Pagan Invasion specifically, other types of tapes, videos like this will get shown in Sunday school, in the teen school. Like, they're not really even showing this to adults. These things are made for kids. They're geared also towards parents, but most of the people who are getting shown this are wayward young girls, or just warriors of Christ who are not stray, but they want to empower young Christians with the knowledge of what's out there and what the devil has to tempt, so that they are armed when they become of age and go out into the world, and ideally move into positions of political and social power, which they have all done. Why do I know this? Because I was subjected to it growing up. So I saw it firsthand what this was, and these practices have not changed. This is still the same. They're still teaching this shit, and now you have it with Gen Z, who are so fucking conservative, and their new church is TikTok. Their new church is YouTube, and on these channels, as we have heard from these podcasts, from these quotes, and from others that we've addressed in previous episodes, and we'll, I'm sure, address in future ones. They're still repeating this crazy, fucking, insane, satanic panic. Evil witches are coming for you. Shit, anything that's not Christianity or their brand of Christianity is fucking satanic and evil. Yes. There's no respect for any other religion. So it's just this constant manipulation. So they do it here with the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and the Beatles, because they know the kids who are seeing this are going to be young Christians, and that's their target. And they're going to be like, oh, wow, yeah, okay, cool. Even the Beatles. And granted, that's all because in 1991, a lot of young people, I mean, I'm not a Gen Zer or an Alpha, so I don't know if they give a shit about the Beatles. Right. But back then, when I was in high school and when I was in middle school, and I know for you too, the kids we went to school with, a lot of these certain kids, hippie kids, alternative kids, were like, praise the fucking Beatles.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I certainly went through a big Beatles phase.
Right, I think a lot of kids, I did not. I loved Across the Universe. My favorite musical. But so
I liked Across the Universe, but I was already into the Beatles before.
And see, I wasn't. I literally only like the Beatles songs from that soundtrack, sung by the actors. I don't actually like the Beatles. So they just manipulate that whole Beatles situation. Yeah. And then like I said, they claim that they want to talk to people in India on the ground about Hinduism, about yogis, about the Brahmins and the false prophets, because it's bullshit. And they end up showing like such footage from that 1984 doc and not actual, like, they sent reporters out for this documentary that they're doing now for Pagan Invasion. They're using footage from the 80s. So it's funny because you see Carol with Trishiana.
And then she's suddenly younger.
And then suddenly she's younger and has 80s hair and early 80s hair at that. And you're like, wait, what? But you just, so when did this, what? And then I find out, oh, okay, 1984. And this came out in 1991. Oh, okay. So when I was like 7, 8 years old.
Right. Versus when you were a fetus.
Right, okay.
And maybe an infant.
Sure.
Depending on
wow.
the season.
Yeah, you guys must have been working on this documentary for 1,000 years.
Right.
So they conflate different cults or branches of Hinduism with one another and just paint it as Hinduism. And they use this example of this cult. In Hinduism, is this a cult of Kali? I believe it is. And yes. And they abandon their families, their life. They eat out of skulls. Like, they get the bodies from the river. What is the name of that? The Ganges.
Yeah.
They get the bodies out of the Ganges. They eat the flesh. They cook. That's what they eat. They eat basically rice and human flesh. And they cover themselves in ash of dead bodies, cremated ashes, and like I said, their utensils, their plates, everything is skulls and bones, and they do cover themselves in cow dung, like, and they're gross, and it's gross, and they're a little extreme, and yeah, it's crazy. But they paint that specific cult of branch of Hinduism that is very, and to be clear, there was a show called Believer on CNN with this guy named Reza. Can you look that up really quick?
Yeah. Reza Aslan.
Yes, Reza Aslan. And he, like, explores and studies the world of religions. The show is amazing. He has an episode all about Santa Muerte. He has an episode about voodoo. Like, it's Buddhism, Hinduism.
Really
it's so cool. And in the Hinduism one, he goes and he spends time with this cult. And it was fucked up and it was scary. And he got the fuck out of there. But it was not all of Hinduism. It did not represent Hinduism. But to scare the viewer, they are like, this is Hinduism. And it's just, but yet they don't want you to do that with them, with their any branches of anything. It's just racist as fuck. This episode was racist. Then they turn around and conflate Jim Jones and Jonestown with Hinduism. And they compare the yogis and the Brahmins and the masters with Jim Jones, who was a Christian cult-based leader, which, by the way, all religions are cults. Christianity is a cult. It is the cult of Christianity. That is how it was known when it first started. It was a cult, and it was called the cult of Christianity. You look at the text in ancient Rome, you go back to when it was referred to as the cult of Christianity, or the cult of the Christ. It was a cult. Cult. Not a cult, C-U-L-T, cult, just like Charles Manson, just like Jim Jones, just like David Koresh in Waco, just like Heaven's Gate. Cult, cult, cult. Just like Scientology. Just like Mormonism. Cult. All of it. You're all cults. All religions are a cult.
You know, I find it very interesting that these same people who are claiming that witchcraft is manipulation grew up on these things like Pagan Invasion.
Yep.
Which displayed such clear manipulation tactics, and yet they have no issue when they do it. Right.
Such hypocrisy. Yeah. So then they speak with this guy, Tal Brooks. He's an author. I put author in the quotes because the things they write about are like it's propagandist Christian fear-mongering books. So I'm not just trying to be a dickhole because I'm an author of novels and I am an actual author. Like, it's just, and it's not the same as like witchcraft authors writing spell books. Like, they write stuff that like this, that is like, Hinduism is evil. Right. Like, it's of the devil. Like, these things have nothing to do with our religion or our belief system, are of Satan, and it's all blah, 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 and homosexuality is evil, and it's a plot of the devil, and blah, 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 witches are evil. Like, those are not books. That's propaganda. So he's an author and a former follower of the yogi Sai Baba. And Sai Baba he followed for a few years. And this man, apparently, Tal Brooks, studied Hinduism, all the scriptures, everything. He was like deep. He was deep. And he followed this guy, Sai Baba, who was like a world-renowned guru, who told and did and performed miracles. And miracles that were apparently very much proven to be true, seen to be true by many people, including Tal Brooks. And was like, the things he did, they happened. And he performed these these acts of miracles, magic, whatever. Fast forward, he came to a realization through something. I don't actually care what it was. It might have been a scripture he saw. I don't know.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember him saying something about that.
He had some Christian realization, awakening, and he was like, oh, Sai Baba can do all this shit. Like, he does do all of it.
Oh, it was something about the Antichrist. That's what it was.
He came across a passage in Revelations about the Antichrist. Because it's always that. We always come back to these scenarios on Pagan Invasion, it seems, that relate to, like, I watched the Unholy Three as a child. I watched Rosemary's Baby. If you're in the U.S., Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, and The Omen. Mm-hmm. The reason I say in the U.S. is because in the U.K., the Unholy Three is the devil's, what was it? The Devil's Claw.
Oh, yeah.
Blood on Satan's Claw. The Wicker Man, and one other folk one. Witchfinder General, I think, maybe. Witchhunter General, Witchfinder General, I think might be it. That, Blood on Satan's Claw, and The Wicker Man. So in the UK, that's your Unholy Three.
Right.
In the US, it is Rosemary's Baby, The Exorcist, and The Omen. So it just seems funny to me that everyone they interview, these specialists, these insider people, keep repeating scenarios
from the movie
that seem very from the Unholy Three of the United States.
Yeah.
So he then turns and says that Sai Baba and all yogis, all gurus are antichrist. They're all antichrist, and they are performing these magical productions, these things, these miracles, but they are satanic miracles, and that they are all possessed by demons, and that they have been completely taken over by the demon. They are no longer human. These people are no longer human. Yogis, gurus, Hindus they're not human. They are no longer human. They are demons, fully possessed. And I quote, this is the most ridiculous part. They were worse than Pazuzu, the Middle Eastern spirit from Iraq, as this man put it. And I'm like, show the demon god of the Eastern winds, Pazuzu, some respect. Like, back off. Like, he'll smite you. Anyway. Worse than Pazuzu possessing Reagan in The Exorcist. What they can do and what they do in their level of goal and what Hinduism is and what they seek to achieve is more diabolical than Pazuzu's aims in The Exorcist. Like,
which, again, all of their propaganda just always goes back to the movie.
Yes,
you know?
And just so racist.
Yes, so racist.
And then in the end, they wrap it up with, once again, like, everyone has a God-shaped hole in their heart and their body and their soul that needs to be filled up, and that paganism is a substitute for God.
Be right back. I'll just be packing my God-shaped hole.
You gotta pack your God-shaped hole for abundance and prosperity.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love how loony this is getting, because I just feel like there's 13 episodes, you guys. This is just episode 2. Like, there's more lunacy to come, and trust, they're coming. There's 2 episodes dedicated to the Mormons.
No, I'm really
excited for that. I'm like, Christian on Christian crime. I can't wait. Like,
and honestly, like, I grew up in the Rocky Mountain region, which is
Mormon
plentiful
Central.
With Mormons
and evangelical Christians.
Yes, but like specifically Mormons, it's just such a high
concentration in that
of the
area.
population.
Yeah. So we're just gonna go down the barrel of lunacy. Moving forward, and just buckle up. And again, the reason we are subjecting ourselves to this 1991, late 80s, whenever time period it is, apparently, insanity, is because this shaped a whole generation that is now in power, and they were taught by people who believe the shit who were in power before them, and passed the baton, and groomed them, and taught them, and clerked them, and interned them, and tapped them under the bathroom stall. And now they're in power, and they're passing this shit along. And now these people have platforms with millions and millions of listeners who most of the time do not overlap with each other. So you take all of those and add them up, you're looking at, like, I don't know, maybe 20, 30, 40 million people in the United States alone. We're not even talking about like
Canada
worldwide listeners,
right.
subscribers, etc., who are listening to these crazy people like Miss Scaffoldy and Mr. Driscoll and Madam Isaiah. Because that girl, she was a madam indeed. She was messy. She was a little messy. Her closet was a little cracked. So wide open. So that's why we're subjecting ourselves to this, because it's important. And also it is kind of entertaining.
Yeah,
and
it's comical.
Mortifying. Yes. And we're very glad that we're only going one episode at a time, because if we had to just sit down and watch this whole thing straight through. Yeah, so stay tuned. Next episode, we will be doing Pagan Invasion, Volume 3, the invasion of the East into the West. So yes, more racism, probably this time targeting yoga and Buddhism. Yes. So stay tuned.
Don't you just hate when the devil calls to you with his deep rhythmic breathing? I mean, I know I do.
It's always that deep rhythmic breathing for them. All right, so last but not least, we have our movie review of the Moon cycle, the episode. And our witchy movie review is The Love Witch. This movie is cute as fuck.
It is. It's great. I love it. I would personally give it a full moon.
Oh, yeah. Complete full moon. And no, 100%. We're not trying to be biased. Again, we don't share each other's like whatever for the movie. It's until right now.
Yeah.
We just and so we're not just watching movies that we're like, oh, these will be good.
Yeah.
It just far we've been kind of lucking out with a lot of our choices.
Well, we did watch Mother Krampus. That was bad.
Oh God, yeah. So yeah, The Love Witch. This woman Elaine. It takes place in like whenever it was filmed, which I think was like 2014, and when it came out, it was 2014, and she's in Eureka, California, escaping from San Francisco via Berkeley. And you think by the looks of it, it's like a Hammer film. It literally looks like a Hammer film. If you're not familiar, Hammer is a film studio from England that produced horror films, still produce horror films. Most famously, the one starring Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing through the 50s, through the 1970s, and into the 80s. And mostly Dracula films, Frankenstein, reimaginings of all of these with a lot of gore, blood, and titties.
All the best things in life.
Especially, yes. So later down the road, we got some hot shirtless menses and sometimes some butt cheek. But it was really, if you liked the ladies, the Hammer films were where you wanted to be for exposure. So it looks like a Hammer film. It looks like it's the 1970s. You would think it's 1972, 73 by the looks of things. And she's driving an old Mustang convertible, red convertible. So you're like, okay. You're still like, all right. And then you realize everyone has normal up-to-date now time cars. Yeah. And it's in the present. But everyone dresses like it's 1972, 73. And every time they come into contact with her, the Barbara Walters Vaseline Oprah glaze comes over the screen. Yes. And it's just great. Yeah, full moon all the way.
Love it.
It got so many things right
really
about witchcraft,
like in general, yeah.
So much right on a factual level where they even did the charge of the goddess. Yeah. They did the practice. They showed drawing down the moon. They showed initiation. Yeah, different herbs, what they were for. The magic was based in realism. They talked about the goddess. They taught it was all very much. And they showed even what happens with a love spell, the dangers of love spells, and like how a love spell can get out of hand and
get very dark.
Get dark and cause more harm than good in the end than you can imagine. And what does that mean when you are seeking? I go back to the charge of the goddess where she says, "If that which thou seek, thou find not within thee, thou wilt never find it without thee."
And I really think that's this character's whole problem.
Yeah, she can't find self-love.
Yeah,
she doesn't love herself. She only sees her value through the eyes of the men. Yeah. And it's beautifully done. It's funny. It's cute. It's sexy. It's silly. And it just, you guys have to watch it. Like, if you haven't seen The Love Witch.
I cannot believe I've never watched it prior to filming this episode because it's wonderful.
If you have Tubi, it's free on Tubi. You just have to deal with commercials. It's a 2-hour movie, so expect to be watching it for 3.5 hours because the commercial breaks are really long, especially if you pause it to use the bathroom or do anything. It's going to take forever to watch it. So if you can rent it or buy it, if you can obtain it, watching it in some way without commercials, I highly recommend doing it. But if you can stand commercials and you have Tubi, it's free on Tubi.
Exactly.
Go watch it. It's wonderful. Just so it's good. It's a good, still horror film. It's inspired by British 70s horror, 60s horror.
Yes.
So just remember, it's still a horror film, but in terms of the witchcraft and like the actual mechanics of it, ingredients, ritual, practice, heavily from Gardenian
Oh yeah,
Wicca.
very much.
There are moments where they make a distinction between witch, Satanist, Druid, Pagan, Wiccan.
Yeah.
But by and large, I would say
What's
these
being
are
practiced
is Gardenian witchcraft, and her high priest and her coven is very much inspired by Gerald Gardner.
Yes.
For every reason, if you're familiar, and down the road we will get into what I'm going to call like ancient contemporary witchcraft tea.
Yes.
Is what we will call that when we get into all of that dirt that is all of that movement.
Yes.
But especially with that man.
Right.
But he's very much Gerald Gardner, and for the good and the bad. And he does say some, his character says some great things and makes some great points.
And
And
he's also a little filthy.
yeah, and it's the rituals are very much Gardenian based. But they're accurate. They're accurate.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's worth watching. It's so entertaining. So again, The Love Witch 2014. Rent it, watch it on Tubi, but check it out if you haven't. Full moon all the way.
Oh, yes.
All right. So with that,
Yeah.
another episode of Spelling the HEKA-TEA Down. Thank you for being with us. We hope that you enjoyed our time around the cauldron in our little corner of the circle.
Exactly. We hope that you are drinking all of the HEKA-TEA that we have spelled out for you.
If you, again, like what you have seen, like what you hear, you just enjoy being with us, or you have something you want to say to us, please like, comment, subscribe, share, spread the love, let us know what you think, and always remember, witches, broomsticks, not just for cleaning.